saying you should freeze our eggs this summer. Honestly, I'm being selfish. I just don't want to do it by myself. I want you to do it with me.
No, I know. And I'll do it with you. I'll support you. Or like, I'll
Freeze an
pretend to it.
embryo.
I'll be like, yeah, we're doing it.
Freeze an embryo.
I don't even know what that means.
Your egg and his sperm together, you freeze that, and that's it.
Why do I envision you just taking out like your makeup fridge?
And like, okay, I have one girl here, two girls
You
here.
put your serums, your eggs, your embryos.
No, I feel like there was a moment in time where I thought like you took your eggs with you. Like you got them.
Let's be honest, no one actually knows how to freeze your eggs.
I know a thing or two about freezing eggs. I'm Dr. Lucky Seacon, a double board certified OBGYN and fertility specialist. And at this point in my career, I have helped a lot of people freeze their eggs or embryos. Because we're born with all the eggs we're ever going to have and we don't have repair mechanisms, it's just one of those cells in our body that can degrade with time. So our egg quantity and quality is always changing in a negative way, especially as we get into our mid to late 30s. So people use egg and or embryo freezing as a way to stop the clock and hold on to the number and the quality of the eggs that they have now at a younger age, so that if and should they ever need IVF to help them overcome infertility later down the road, they can give themselves a head start with younger eggs and a more plentiful pool of eggs. Generally speaking, this requires 2 weeks of time and effort. Usually this involves taking injectable medications for 8 to 10 days and coming in for lots of monitoring visits at your clinic. And eventually this culminates with an egg retrieval where you undergo a very minor procedure that doesn't take that much time, but you are sedated by an anesthesiologist, and we extract eggs vaginally from the ovaries and freeze them, or we turn them into embryos, which takes about a week, and we can test the embryos and then freeze them. When someone comes to me to freeze eggs or embryos, I certainly treat it very seriously. This is a major medical decision, and it's important to talk very seriously about this as a strategy. I do not treat it casually. But I have had groups of friends who happened to see me as new patients all around the same time, and they requested to try to line it up so that they could go through the process together. I'm gonna admit, when this first started happening, I thought it was kind of silly because I explained to them, look, we can start you on the same day, but you're not gonna be coming in at the same time for all of your visits, because when we bring you in is tailored towards your response. And certainly I cannot guarantee that you're gonna have your egg retrieval on the same day. What I've observed now with experience having friends do this together is that it actually, I think, helps people mentally a lot to have a support system. And I don't think, as long as it doesn't delay someone in their starting their cycle because they're waiting for their friend to be ready and whatnot, I actually don't think there's any harm, as long as patients know that the decision of when to time certain things is going to revolve around their individual response, and that may be very different from their friends. I still think it's nice to be able to do the injections alongside each other and to bounce ideas off of each other and just have that camaraderie and support. So yeah, you never know when you're going to learn something new from your own patients. To clear up a few quick things from this video, you do not take your eggs with you. The eggs remain at the fertility clinic, and it's important to point out that it's not a matter of just leaving them in the freezer and walking away. They are usually stored in a fertility clinic or in a specialized facility because there has to be constant monitoring. They're stored in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature, and that temperature needs to be maintained. So there's constant monitoring, there are alarms, there are very sensitive temperature sensors, there's a backup generator. So there's a lot that goes into the long-term storage of eggs or embryos. There are differences between eggs versus embryos when they're frozen. Eggs are single cells, and so when they're frozen and thawed, they tend to not withstand the thawing as well as an embryo would, because embryos have 100 to 200 cells, they're stronger, they're more hardy, and can withstand more. Thaw survival for embryos is around 98%, so a really high degree of confidence that you're going to be able to come back and use an embryo to try to get pregnant with it. Whereas with egg thawing, it really depends on the clinic. Our typical thaw rates are about 90% of eggs surviving the thaw, which is not bad, but it's certainly different than embryos. Eggs have potential, but not all eggs will thaw, fertilize, actually turn into embryos. Roughly half of the eggs will actually get to the embryo stage, and that can vary according to individual characteristics like egg quality. And then not every embryo is going to test as genetically normal and implant. So with eggs, you're freezing potential, but you really won't know until you come back to thaw those eggs what you have. Whereas if you turn those eggs into embryos up front, that attrition doesn't go away. You're avoiding the attrition of thawing the eggs, but you're still gonna have not every egg fertilize and turn into an embryo, but at least you'll know up front, and you can test those embryos. After they're frozen, you're gonna wait and get those results back and know what you have and whether it has high reproductive potential. But eggs give you flexibility. You can't unfertilize an embryo, so you're committed. And whether that means using donor sperm or partner sperm, you can't come back and utilize those embryos to refertilize them with someone else's sperm. So it is a commitment, and that's the major downside of embryo freezing. If you want to learn more and learn all of the things that I think are essential pieces of information before, during, and after going through a fertility preservation cycle, please go to my blog, The Lucky Egg, and you can sign up for my free guide, and that will be sent to you as a PDF, and it has so much of this information and more.